So this video is going to be about tracking a PPP loan when you actually receive it, and then tracking the expenses to track for whether it could be forgiven either fully or partially. And then ultimately, whenever it is forgiven, whether again fully or partially, how to record that as well, all within QuickBooks Online. This particular video is for subscribers of QuickBooks Online Essentials. If you do have QuickBooks Online Plus, you can watch my other video of how to track PPP with QuickBooks Online Plus. The reason for that is we use classes in order to do that for that video. And when you have Essentials, you don't have the option to do classes. But I can show you still how you can still track that and run reports as you go to see where you're at with the PPP loan without using classes. So the first step in all this is creating the bank deposit. So whenever you actually receive the loan into your bank, how to record that. So the first step in doing that is we want to make sure that we have a PPP loan liability account created in our file. So in order to do that, we go to our chart of accounts, which if you look in the top right, you can see the gear icon. And then under settings, you'll see chart of accounts. We can hit new here in the top right. And we're going to be classifying this as a long-term liability. I would ask your accountant how they may want to track it as you go. The reason I like it from the beginning to classify it as a long-term is that it's a little bit simpler, because if you end up getting partially forgiven for this loan, then you'll need to reclassify the remaining balance as a long-term from a short-term. So I think it's just easier to make it long-term from the beginning, but again, consult your accountant with that. We can just make it other long-term liability, and then we can name it PPP loan payable. And then if you want, you can put the bank name as well. So we can go ahead and save and close that. So now that we have that loan account created, I'm going to show you how to record the deposit when the funds are ultimately deposited into your bank account for the loan. So if you look into the top left plus new icon here, under other, you'll see the option for bank deposit. So you can click on that. You can choose the correct bank here that was deposited to. We're going to say this was on May 1st. If you don't have your bank, you can add it here as a customer. So you can just add new. We do have one set up here, so we can choose them. And then here under the account, this is where we're going to choose that PPP loan account that we just created. So you'll see PPP loan payable. That's the long-term liability we just created, so we can choose that. We can put PPP loan in the description here. And then we're going to say this is for an amount of $50,000. Again, you can add a memo if you want, PPP loan. And then we can go ahead and save and close that. Now, once that deposit has been created, you'll see whenever you go into your banking feed and you do your matching at the end of the month, whenever you see that deposit for the $50,000 or whatever it ends up being, then you should hopefully easily be able to match that to that deposit that we just created right here. Now, just to show you what that has done in your books, so we're going to look at the balance sheet here. So it created a deposit of the $50,000 into that bank, as well as created here, you'll see that long-term liability for the full $50,000. Even if you think that you're going to get fully forgiven, you still at the time need to classify it as a loan payable, as a liability. So now as you go and you put in expenses and bills and things into your QuickBooks Online file, you're just going to basically want to make sure that you're tracking everything and then you have the right categories to ultimately pull those numbers whenever you need for the PPP loan forgiveness. So if you just want to double check into your chart of accounts and make sure that you have the associated expense accounts created. So you'll probably want one for rent. So we have one here for rent. You'll want one for utilities. So we'll see we have utilities here. In this particular case, we have some sub accounts here: utilities, electric, gas, water, internet. And then you're going to, of course, want to make sure that you have payroll expenses set up, and you can have sub categories here. If you happen to not have any of these set up, you can hit new here, choose expenses, and then create anything that whether you want to create you need to create a utilities or payroll, anything like that, you can do that here. But as you move along and you're tracking everything, I'm going to show you how to create a custom report that you can reference at any time in order to see those particular expenses and see where you're at with the potential loan forgiveness. So in order to get started with that, you'll see in the left-hand column here, the reports. So we can click on that. And we're going to be doing this off of a base profit and loss report. And what we're going to do is we're going to create this custom report and then again, save it, rename it, anything we want to do that we can reference at any time. In order to begin customizing this report, the first thing we're going to choose is going to be the date range. So the range should be the first day that you receive the funds from the loan, which in this case is May 1st. And then it could be 8 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever it is, will be the end date. In this particular case, we're going to be doing 8 weeks. And then you can choose cash or accrual. It'll depend. I think probably in the most case, you're going to want to be using cash for this. And then after we choose these options here, we can click this customize button here. And then from here, you'll see this filter option with the down arrow. You can click on that and then click this checkbox here for distribution accounts. And then in that same option, click the down arrow here. And then we're going to scroll down and we're going to see options for all of our chart of accounts here. This is basically showing what we want in the report and to exclude everything else. So in this particular case, again, we're going to be doing the payroll, rent, as well as utilities. So we can just scroll down and find those associated accounts here. So first here we see payroll, so we can click on that. And also keep in mind too that there's sub accounts as well. You might have set up in chart of accounts, and if that is the case, you're going to want to check those as well. So in this particular case, we have payroll expenses, and then we have hourly and salary as sub accounts. We can choose all three. Go down, we have rent and lease right here. We can click on that. And then we have the utilities account, again, with these sub accounts here for electric, gas, internet, water. We can choose all those as well. Once we have those selected, click out of this and then hit run report. Now, once we have that, we can, if you want to, change the name of the report. So we can name this, PPP expenses. So give it a different name. And then if you want to as well, depending on your browser, if you use Chrome, for example, you can go ahead and bookmark this page in this report so that it will show up in the top of your tabs here. So at any point, day by day, week by week, month by month, if you want to check exactly where you're at, where potential PPP loan forgiveness and how much money you have in those particular accounts, you can easily do that. So yeah, once you have this, you can go ahead and hit save customization here. We have it named here as PPP expenses. If you have any groups, of course, you can add them there. So we can save that. And just so you know where it's at, once that's saved, anytime you go to reports here, you'll see this custom reports option here. You can click on that, and then you'll be able to run this report. You can see your payroll expenses. And again, if you have it broken down, you can see how it's broken down as well. You can see your rent amount as well as your utilities, again, broken down if you have it set up that way. And then you can see your total number here. So the total expenses for everything that should be tracked for PPP in this particular case is $29,650. So let's say that this is where we're at the end of our 8-week cycle at June 25th. So let's say that we ultimately end up being forgiven for $29,650 out of that $50,000 original loan. So I can explain now how to record that in QuickBooks Online. It's the same procedure. If you end up getting full forgiveness, it would just be different numbers that ultimately end up being put in. So first, we're going to need to make sure that we have a other income account set up in our chart of accounts. In order to check that, again, in this gear icon on the top right, we can go to chart of accounts. And then we can look at under type income to see if anything's set up. In this particular case, we don't have anything, so we can go ahead and create that now under new in the top right here. So we can scroll down, choose other income, other miscellaneous income, and then we can just name this other income if we prefer. Now that we have that other income account created, I'll show you how to create the journal entry in order to classify the loan forgiveness. So in the top left here, you'll see this plus new icon. You can click on that. And then under other, you'll see the journal entry option here. So we can click on new journal entry. First, we'll be choosing the date. Let's say this is sometime in August. We can name this PPP loan forgiveness. And so the first thing you're going to want to do is debit that loan account. So debiting the account is ultimately decreasing that loan account, that liability. So we can choose that PPP loan payable account that we created at the beginning of the video, and we can debit that for that $29,650. And then we can credit that account that we just created with other income. at the same amount, 29,650. And again, if it was a full forgiveness, then we would just make this 50,000 and 50,000. Same procedures, different numbers. Memo, PPP loan, and put that in the descriptions as well. And the reason for that is it's kind of unknown how all of this is going to be treated at tax time, whether this income will be taxable or not. So you want to make sure that it's known that this other income credit here is going to be associated with the PPP loan. So whenever you bring it to your tax accountant in the year, it's known how everything should be categorized. So once you have this journal entry here, debiting this payable account and crediting the other income account that we created, we can go ahead and hit save and close. And just so you can see ultimately what happened here, we can run a balance sheet report. And then we'll see now under long-term liabilities, we'll see this PPP loan payable for the amount of $20,350. And the reason for that is it's the original amount that was credited to us was $50,000. We ultimately, by tracking the PPP expenses that we showed in the beginning or in the middle of the video, we tracked $29,650 of expenses. So that ultimately leads us after that forgiveness of still having a loan payable in the amount of $20,350. And of course, if it was fully forgiven, whenever you create that journal entry, this would just balance out to zero here. So that's a way in order to track those expenses cleanly, as well as record the deposit and then the forgiveness with using QuickBooks Online Essentials. So I appreciate you watching this. And as always, of course, if you have any questions or need maybe some more one-on-one type of help, you can always let me know. You can either leave a comment below or send me an email. Thank you.